Hi, I'm Jim Burgess, behavioral iridologist, and today I'm here with Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
And we're going to look at Lindsay's eyes and do a full-blown consultation where I interpret the patterns of the eyes. We're going to look at her family tree, her birth order position, going to ask her some questions. And everybody always comes here. Sometimes they don't know why they're here. I'm not sure why Lindsay's here today myself. This is not a staged event. It will be a live uncovering of whatever we're going to find in her life. And there's always a story to someone's life that molds and shapes us into our personalities, our characters, careers we might choose, relationships we choose to be in. So life is a continual unfolding. And I'm here today to be a part of Lindsay's life that she's let me into and to see what that story is. And whatever is going on in her life will probably emerge. Some things may not, we don't know. But to take whatever is presented here and try to understand it and correlate it and to almost look at it's like a puzzle that's being put together or a continuum of your life that's being put together. And we are all kind of programmed to go in certain directions. And the power of this work really has to do with the ability to say, wow, this is a track we're on based on a lot of these different influences from family, childhood, social experiences. And is this the path we want to be on? Is this what we're choosing? Or are there things that you might want to accomplish or aspire to, or dreams or goals or visions or conditions you're dealing with, or whatever might be going on in your life, we can apply this model to give you some information and help you understand possible aspects that are contributing to whatever you're experiencing today. So you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, great. So why are you here today, Lindsay?
I think it's an interesting journey. I was weirdly just attracted to the close-up pictures of eyes for years now. And I think it was just when I got word of that it was actually something that could be studied, as you are an iridologist, I was like, that's actually really cool. And after meeting with you, I just felt like, even not really understanding what it meant to have my eyes looked at, that it was something that I wanted to get done to kind of see what showed up and what patterns I could have. So I guess, I don't know, just the general interest in personality structures, I guess, like different people who come up with different personality theories. I've always been interested in that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you have an interesting one. So, do you have are there any main questions or things that have possibly been up in your life in the last 3 months that you'd like some clarity on, or any burning desires or questions or stresses or things going on in your life that you would like me to focus or get some clarity on? Or do you want me to kind of get started and see what comes up? Or what's up for you right now?
I think if we could get started, but just with some things in mind. So
Okay.
I had some questions for you previously. I'd asked on the phone about my, I've had cysts on my ovary, and I've had problems with my left side of my body before, and I was curious about what that had.
So you've been diagnosed with ADHD, and so you take a medication for that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the levels of that medication and when that's working right are affecting your sleep cycles?
Yeah, especially when I first, let's say if I don't take the meds for a while, once I get back on them, the side effects of the meds keeps me awake for the first 2 weeks or so. And then, I used to be able to sleep like that. I don't care where I was. I could be in a stadium full of screaming fans, and if I'm tired, I could sleep. But now it's not as easy. So
if you're not on the medication, how's your sleep cycle?
it's usually pretty good.
It's usually pretty
Yeah.
good. And any other medications or things you're being treated for?
So I have Ativan for panic attacks as needed, and I've taken it a few times recently. And because of that, I went and got diagnosed with depression, and I got antidepressants for that, but a low dose, just to kind of help balance things out until I feel better.
Well, I think that's interesting that all of this is going on with your mother, and this is happening, and it's such a big thing in your eyes, and we're going to talk about that hopefully we can shed some light on that and bring some consciousness into what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Yeah, good. Let me just do a couple of minutes on your eyes and just tee something up so we can see if I'm reading this accurately and you can actually relate to what I'm saying.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the relationships in your family tree, and I'm going to look at any your life and chronologically accidents and things. So we'll write all this down, and then I'll tie all of this in, and then we'll go into the iris patterns and show you how the specific patterns then are being influenced from your past lineage and your childhood and social experiences. And your mother's birth order position, does she have brothers and sisters?
She has a younger brother.
She has a younger brother, so she's a one girl. And what was your mother's relationship like to her mother?
She actually told me that she did not love her mom. She said straight up, I do not love her. I have no love in my heart for her. I would say my mom basically hated her mom.
And I can't tell you how normal it is and how often I see a firstborn daughter and a mother do this. It is just... And so what was it like with your mother?
We got
Younger,
okay.
up to 10.
My first memory of her is me hiding from her potentially hurting me.
Okay.
And I would say I remember a lot just trying to make her happy. Like one time I made a collage and she's like, oh, that's nice. And so she and my dad had gone out and I was like, oh, I'm going to sit and make another one. And I worked for it felt like forever. Of course, it probably wasn't that long, but I worked so hard.
For a kid it was.
Yeah, I worked so hard to make another one for her. And she was just like, oh, or when I was little, I broke something and she was mad. And so when she was taking a nap, I glued it back together. Just stuff where I was like always trying to make things okay. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, growing up, I thought things were okay, but as I got older, I realized she just wasn't really around a lot. Like she was taking naps when my dad would be at work and she was supposed to be watching us, like just not really watching us as much as she was supposed to be, not really being a mom. And I think she had her reasons for it.
And this is what we're going to be working with. This is what I want you to really, I mean, it's just so apparent already in this first piece.
Yeah.
What you're working with is the essence of feminine when it becomes frozen and isolated, depressed, repressed, and holds it all in for the fear of being hurt or beaten or whatever again.
Yeah.
So this is the feminine's inability to express oneself. That's now a transgenerational pattern. And do you know anything about your great-great-grandmother?
No.
No. We just know that the great-great-grandfather was a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so your great-great-grandmother dealt with this rage and internalized it and couldn't leave. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is because they immigrated, immigration is like ripping a tree out of its roots and transplanting it. So what I'm saying is when there's a family history, it becomes attached to the physical ley lines in the earth and the physical geography that's called home. To be ripped away from your homeland and all the generations of the Irish that inhabited this town or this village, and to be taken out of it. I mean, can you even feel or comprehend what that might be like to be literally cast out of where your soul resonates and feels safe and to be thrown into a foreign country?
Yeah, it would.
And what are the implications of that? And that's 1, 2, 3 generations back. That's in your DNA.
Well, crap.
And recognize that the neurogenic fibers in your eyes, these fibers, guess what they want? Connection. And because you have the emotional type iris pattern, this is all about touch and connection. That is what helps you to feel safe.
Yeah.
How much touch and connection do you think happened with these women in this lineage?
My mom wouldn't even hug me pretty much ever. So if I had to guess, yeah, she hugged me for like half a second when her dad died because I asked. So yeah, if I had to guess, it would probably not be a lot.
Wow. So
Yeah.
so the implications of that are just, wow, my heart goes out. Whew.
Well, it's interesting too that my mom chose my dad.
Yes, talk about that.
Had my brother when she was 22, I'm pretty sure, and then me by 23 or 24, and then my sister. So we were born January of 91. My brother December of 92 for me, and then April of 95 was my sister. And I think I don't know if things were okay back then. I really don't know. I think it was just like they got so into raising us that my mom was working 3 jobs, my dad was working a job all day, and I think they were happy for at least some of their marriage. They ended up being married for 25 years, and basically what I know now is that my mom had been cheating on my dad since my brother was born with multiple people. Yeah. From there, we moved to California in 2000, and even in California, she was cheating on my dad, and I keep even finding out more as time's gone by. Like, I went to my cousin.
So she could do whatever she wanted. Mm-hmm. And you have put it together that your grandmother was doing the same thing that she handed to her mother. Mm-hmm. And the rule is that we're breaking here today, Miss Lindsay. The number one girl is the increase of the mother. Mm. And attitudes. Mm-hmm. And so, we look at your father. Why couldn't your father get out? So answer that question for me. It's unhealthy. His wife's cheating on him. He obviously doesn't value monogamy. He doesn't value celibacy. Monogamy.
His babies.
He doesn't. It's like your mother had 3 jobs. They're working. They're in survival mode. Mm-hmm. When you say they had a good relationship, but she's cheating on him the whole time. Mm-hmm. So we have to qualify good relationship here.
Right.
And so, what do you think kept your father engaged for all these years, not wanting to look at reality?
Easily, it was us, like my brother, sister, and I. I don't know. I feel like it was, he had imagined the possibility of our lives if he had left my mom, and he said there's just never a time where it really had been working out. So I don't know.
How old was the youngest one when they left?
She was 18.
And
about to graduate high school.
And how soon after that did he leave?
My mom left my dad.
Your mom left your dad?
Yeah, my dad she went and got her hair done and got eyelash extensions, ? Came home, was like, I can't handle this right now. I need to leave. And went away to her Skype dude in Southern California. And he called me crying, and he just fallen apart.
But when you have a series of women that are at odds with each other, mm-hmm. on your mother's side of the family, it shuts the heart and the feeling body down. Okay? Mm-hmm. They can become numb.
Yeah.
And they become detached. And the loneliness is acted out through promiscuity.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term indigo or crystal children?
Yeah.
Do you know what that's about?
Mm-hmm.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah.
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 Yes. So what happens is, and this is why I'm so grateful you're here today, because I'm learning. Mm-hmm. And it's not uncommon for someone that comes in on this vibrational frequency to have extremely severe family and ancestral lineage stuff going on. But you've come here to deal with it and learn how to deal with it in an entirely new way.
Yeah, and break the cycle and just...
To break the cycle.
Mm-hmm. I am breaking the cycle.
You are breaking the cycle. It is apparent and it is obvious. If I saw a regular person with this lineage, they would not have this kind of a smile and light in their eyes. Excuse me. But we also have to recognize the conditions that are physically coming at you that are how the pattern is playing itself out. And what is it actually asking of you?
Yeah.
So do you know anything, as a firstborn son, your father...
Yeah.
Do we really get the story here that every man, except your father, who's breaking the cycle, and your mother, they're playing it out, but they're the only ones that aren't drunk. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not saying the women are.
And they're not addicted to,
Every one of the men that I have a note by is
alcoholic.
an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yep.
Every man.
Yep.
Every man. And so, literally, and usually with that, you can have the kind of drunk that becomes passive, submissive, silent, reclusive, go in the cave. You got the opposite here. Mm-hmm. So what you have, now if we could look at it this way, when you have a whole lineage of women that are being beaten on, but then need to leave and go take their business elsewhere, and you have a whole history of men that are violently abusive, you have the two deepest paradoxes of the masculine out of balance and the feminine out of balance.
Yeah.
You're processing that in your body.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be on medication too.
Yeah.
So what we want to find is what's the divinity of all of this? There's nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm going to say, wow, this is an interesting history. I mean, you did have the Irish blood in you.
Yeah.
And, they do have a history of their own, and we don't want to, find excuses to support bad behavior.
Right.
But we also need to look at what's actually going on at the deeper levels.
Yeah.
And by understanding what's happening at the deeper levels, I think we can begin to unravel this to some degree.
What I've deduced is that I felt like, if there's the inner child Lindsay, that no one was there to help me grow up. That's kind of my...
Yeah, that one's deep. And yet, we're going to go deeper if we can.
Yeah.
Because I can see it in the eyes.
Yeah. Thanks. I was gonna say you're gonna need tissues. I know. I happy cry too. So it's.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And you
Thanks.
might find me joining you. So
Yeah.
it's just part of the nature. Said when we started this out that there's a joy and a beingness to you. That when you're in that place, you radiate it, and it's an effortless transmission of your love that heals. There's nothing to understand.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. And it's your greatest gift.
There were teachers that were like, "What's going on here?" But no one ever thought, because it's the inattentive type, so it's all in my head. So maybe since I wasn't standing up in class and I was talking a lot, that they're just like, "Oh, she's just a kid." Who knows? But yeah, so it was like teachers did notice there was some kind of problem, especially because I was smart. But I don't know.
Here's the gist of it. Your natural tendency based on these iris patterns is to be silent, inward, and creative.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there's a kaleidoscope in there. There's a circus in there. There's
There's all of those, anything that can fit in there, yeah. And a broken radio. Yeah.
It's all in there. It's like a whole movie theater with constant entertainment. And it's, but it's nonverbal.
Yeah.
And what it does is it moves you to such great levels of experiences internally that it's unsettling. And the natural tendency for your type is to develop the only mechanism you can either become, and in this position, I'm surprised you didn't, we haven't mentioned it, but it doesn't mean it's not true. You would become very athletic, competitive, tomboy, just really moving a lot of energy, which would be for you today in your life, whatever it is and whatever it's doing, for you not to be having a regular exercise program and not to be moving energy and getting aerobic, you're going to get more benefit out of that than anything I could probably tell you. That combined with a diet, and then there's a longer term thing that we can talk about, but I have some reservations about actually going to these places with you based on the conditions. What I'm going to say, and I don't think I'm going to say it a lot, because I usually can be a broken record on this topic. But it really, I'm going to say it once.
Yeah.
That your ability to create a safe environment to deeply go in and move the emotions that are intrinsically in your bones, and you're purely that of emotion, is your freedom.
Yeah.
And it would take a concerted effort, it would take help, it would take support. I have people that I refer to. I do some of this stuff. I can act as a coach and a guide, but it primarily is to be put in the hands of trained professionals, and talk therapy ain't going to do it. And so you've basically manifested all of this stuff that's going on in the family tree in your body, and the only the primary coping mechanism you have is your mind. And what happened is your mind became so strong that it was able to excel in school and excel in whatever it wanted to do and whatever it was drawn to.
Yeah.
But at the expense of, and this is what, see, the mind and this part of the masculine, all of these drunk men, why are they drunk? Because they don't want to feel.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of the masculine consciousness. You have an inner masculine, you have an inner feminine.
Right.
There's a part of the masculine consciousness that doesn't want to feel regardless of anything. And that's true throughout humanity. Okay? And usually, and what I'm going to say is right now, this half moon in your left, which is your feminine side, is taller.
Yeah.
That is a prime. What's happening right now in your life, Lindsay, is you're being called to your mother's side of the family to deal with the pain that these women have experienced, not only between the mother and the daughter, but between the husband and the wife, or the father and the daughter. And all that internalized pain is in your body. So we have to, actually, I would like to look in your eyes real quick, because
I get super blue when I cry too, so.
just look at me right now.
Yeah, they're like, boom. Thanks to the salt from my tears.
That's exactly what because it's really about, if you look at what happened to all of the women on your mother's side, if you look at what the women were dealing with on both sides of your family, they're angry, drunk, abusive men. And how did the women deal with it?
They fled, or they looked to someone else's bed. And
Exactly. You're not doing that. And so what was their lesson?
did they ever have one? I mean,
why would you attract somebody that's like this? To stand up to authority, to the man, where the woman could actually be in her power and say, if you take another drink, I'm leaving.
Right.
And not go elsewhere to find her solace, her love. But if you're going to marry a man, why don't you want to be with him?
Yeah.
And you think they might have been shut down sexually? You know, people that are promiscuous, they're not into intimacy. They're into fun and pleasure.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So the idea of a meaningful relationship is gone.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fun, and you're never lonely, and we have a good time. Okay? Probably not what you're aspiring to. Exactly.
That doesn't resonate with me.
It doesn't resonate with you. That's the part of you that's come to break out of all these patterns. So it's almost like, did I finish the ADHD? Because the ADHD, what would you say your symptoms are of how, if you don't take medication, how does that play itself out for you?
I can't. I guess it's hard. So I feel like I don't have enough time to think about what I want to say before I say it, to the point where I can't even follow what I'm saying. You know, it's like if I, let's say in a moment I blurt something out, and if I go, wow, if I had taken 0.2 seconds to think about that, I probably wouldn't have said it. You know, just stuff like that where it's embarrassing. I mean, my whole life I've just felt like I don't fit in. And perhaps I don't, but I haven't felt it in a good way.
Right.
I haven't felt like, wow, I'm meant to be something outside of what the norm, the box. You know, it's like I always felt like, what am I doing wrong that I can't fit in? Right. So I think that's a big part of it.
That's the story of your life.
Yeah.
Let me show it to you, because you've called it out, and I didn't want to have to do this. You see this darker blue area that's all right in here?
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
It's huge.
Is that my...
That's self-esteem.
Yeah. So
with mother.
Oh, yeah. There was no self-esteem
now
with my mom.
So what is that? So let me translate it.
Yeah.
No matter how much I do, it's not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not going to be good enough. It's a whole self-worth. It's an identity. It's actually not even emotional. It's a belief system about yourself. Okay? And so the whole idea that now if you don't take this medication, you're going to say things that you regret and da-da-da-da-da, and see, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. This can all be changed. And I have a normal protocol that I would use to change it, and I don't think we can use that for you.
Yeah, normal doesn't really.
Normal doesn't work.
Normal doesn't work, no.
Normal doesn't work. What is going to work? If in a everyday circumstance, if you're upset or a little triggered about something, and I say, Lindsay, what are you feeling? Can you name some emotions of what's going on for you?
Yeah. You want me to just name like the standard norm?
Yeah.
Okay. Anxious, overwhelmed, like an outsider. I guess that's not necessarily a feeling, but like, yeah, I think I like outsiders a really big one usually when I get really upset, or just like I've done something wrong, I've messed up. But anxiety is usually behind it a lot. It's just like for me, it's always what am I forgetting?
Right.
What am I supposed to be doing right now that I'm not doing? And
Right.
what am I going to mess up next? That's kind of
That's the standard protocol. So those are all thoughts in the mind
yeah.
that are telling you you're not right and something's wrong. So we don't have any emotions in there.
Yeah.
So I separate the two. I separate belief systems from emotions. I'm going to fast forward
Okay.
because I don't want to go into this. It's not appropriate. This could be done in pieces and over a longer period of time, but I'm going to give you the solution.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to go right to the solution. And it's right here. It's right here.
And that's the voice again, or is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this is the area. It's very interesting. I just wanted to verify that this huge blue area out here in your right eye is the area of the heart. And it has to do with bonding with men. So it means a lack of. Over here, there's a pattern that goes right through the heart that's also a lack of bonding with men. It's here and here. And then here is also a lack of nurturing with mother, and it's very strong in lack of nurturing with father. So connecting in the physical with a man or a woman is almost impossible. Childhood. Okay. So that creates a sense of an independence and a self-reliance that you're going to have to do it on your own. But you don't want to do it on your own.
No.
Right?
Right.
Right, because you're the emotional type, and because of the patterns that are in here, you have these lacuna in here. They're very small, they're very tight, which means that you have your emotions, you're emotionally very wound up, and your emotions are deep, and they can be very reactive. But you cannot have one for a very long time. And then a kaboomy happens.
Yeah.
A Lindsay moment happens. Okay. And so, and it's, these fibers are so tight, and I was talking about the strength of your body. It's almost like everybody's holding on because we really can't feel this. But I'm not going to instruct you to feel it. I am, but in a very different way. And I've never done this before. Because the old protocol, we could lay it out in the old fashion, but it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem appropriate. Because you've come here to teach us a new way. And the new way is this. This area of your eye has to do with, what does Lindsay need to feel safe, open her heart, to be touched? How do you invite somebody close for what you want for you? Not whether you deserve it, not whether it's going to happen, no questioning about anything except me. Me. I'm here for me. Does that make sense? How's that feel? And you know what? You get to get it wrong. You get to screw this up more times than you could ever possibly imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of your perfectionist that's going to kick in, that's right here in this eye. There's a part of your perfectionist that's going to kick in.
Yeah.
It's going to tell you it has to be this, 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 and this. But what you're actually doing is you're breaking the pattern in the family that's been going on for generations that I don't deserve. He's not going to be there for me, and he's going to beat me anyway, and I might as well go find love somewhere else. You are taking every one of those patterns and you're saying, no, I'm a human being, I'm a child of God, I deserve love just like anybody else, and this is the way I want to be loved. That's your job. You get that? So would you be willing to undertake that? What would that look like?
Yeah, that's what I don't know.
So you don't know.
No.
Beautiful. Now, are you willing to screw it up more times than you could possibly imagine?
Yeah.
Because remember, this is the area of, this is how your inner feminine is nourished. This is your right eye. So this pattern is, how does my inner feminine get nourished by my inner masculine? Which is exactly the pattern that's been happening in your family history forever.
Yeah.
And then the whole, I don't believe it, I don't deserve it, the double self-esteem thing, the voice, I can't speak up, and I can't bond in the heart, so I have to sacrifice myself. I mean, you don't have that many patterns in here. Oh, the big one is this. Do you see how this ring breaks right here and goes out? This is the area of escapism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it says is that there's a part of yourself that really doesn't want to feel or deal with any of this, particularly any conflict or anything that comes
Oh,
up.
yeah. When I was growing up, we just basically, well, especially actually when we were a little bit older, I shouldn't say growing up, but when we were like middle school plus, it was do whatever mom needs to not yell at you and go in your room and go on the computer.
Right. And, I just wanted to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
You have a gift with your hands.
Yeah.
Did you know this?
Yeah, that's all my creativity.
Yes.
It comes out of my hand. I mean,
And what do you like to do creatively with your hands?
I like to crochet, paint, draw, whatever. I mean, I even like to build. I mean, anything I can do with my hands. I love even just like doing demo work, like destroying shit, anything. I mean,
Wonderful. A great way to move in.
and instruments.
Well, I want you to know that self-esteem thing is probably the biggest pattern you're working.
Yeah.
The light side of that is it's a gift with the hands and creativity with the hands. So anything you're doing with your hands to create is supporting you in this feeling good about yourself and giving yourself value. You're creating a whole new identity for a woman in your family matrix that's never been seen before. That's how big
cool.
this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how big this is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a journey. You don't have to get it right. You don't have to get it overnight.
Right.
It's just a process of what you're going to be working with. And it's step after step after step. And we don't want to take too big a step. That would be my biggest
But keep moving.
But keep moving.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Great.
All right. Oh.
Hi. It's Jim and
Lindsay.
here today. It's been 5 days since that very powerful experience that the two of us had. And normally what I do is, we've had a couple of phone conversations. Normally what I do is I call a client the next day or two to see how they're doing. And I was, and the nature of this work is really a function of going into it for me and experiencing it and feeling her family and family tree and her and all the things that are going on. So at times I get a little overwhelmed. And as we both did. And so what happens is there's an integration time for me on particularly these really intense family tree ones, and when we have symptoms like we're dealing with. And so it serves me to sit with it. And in the steam, in the sauna, the hot tub, whatever it is, I get downloads sometimes at 3 a.m. And so I've had a couple of nice revelations that I actually haven't shared with Lindsay. But I wanted to just check in with her and also to give her the opportunity to just share what this was like for you, because I know what it was like for me, and it was I've been doing this a long time and done a lot of these, and this was a very, very intense, I will say, and very powerful experience that I must say I knew I was here to learn, And this wonderful soul has taught me some amazing things about this new generation of crystal, indigo. I kind of lap them together, but because I probably don't know enough. But this new generation of human that's come here that is breaking the rules and is setting new precedents. And, you know, we've even been talking a little bit, and I've been even brainstorming within myself about how to actually support her in the future to follow up and what can actually be done. Because for most people, having a family tree like this they wouldn't be doing as well as you are, looking as good as you are, and their lives wouldn't be going as well as yours is. And so it's been a great learning experience for me, and I will continue to learn, as I'm sure you will too. Mm-hmm. And so it's a beautiful journey, and for me it's about honoring these gifts and not trying to plug in old information or old paradigms, because this is a new paradigm that's come forward that is teaching us. So I feel like more of the student than the teacher, but I will take the lead when I need to. So Lindsay, welcome. I really thank you for showing up and letting us use this video, the courage to let this out, and to help others possibly that are dealing with any similar conditions, or knowing that they too can overcome, you know, these kinds of histories and things don't have to dictate the course of the rest of our life. Mm-hmm. So how was this experience for you?
I don't know. It was, I guess, to put it to words, it was overwhelming, but in a good way, and it was very enlightening, I guess. So it was, I guess, just, I had never really looked at my family tree in the way of looking for a pattern. Like, I've looked before, and I've even been known to say that my family tree is like a weeping willow next to a pool of alcohol and drugs. Like, it's addicted, depressed people. And so I knew that, but I had that in mind as far as if I've experienced depression before or anything in that nature, but I hadn't really looked at the actual habits and the patterns that were created as far as the women in my family or even the men, and what that could mean for me. And so I thought that was very interesting to look at it that way, and it's somewhat comforting. And I think one thing that kind of surprised me actually was when you had called me, because you had told me the night after we had our session that it might be hard to sleep, I might have some nightmares or some really intense stuff come up, and I slept like a baby. And I think that surprised you, is just that I was able to and I think the biggest thing for me, which I told you on the phone, was that it's, you know, when you feel like something's going on with you and it's hard to find out why, when someone puts words to that, it's actually comforting.
Yes.
It's kind of like when I was diagnosed with ADHD, and this is something I've read that's common, is that you go, well, crap. So it's that moment of relief, but then it's also like, well, crap, I have to deal with this now. But at least you know what you're dealing with. It puts a face to, puts a name to the face, I guess, and just kind of gives you something to actually look at and examine, instead of just being like, something's going on. So I guess that was the biggest thing with the family tree and the patterns. And otherwise, I'd say I drew a lot of comfort from it. And I think there was a lot of truth behind my needing to kind of get rid of all the emotions that have been kind of stuck. And I don't know, I found myself being mostly creative this weekend more than anything else, but I made some really beautiful things, and I've just been working on getting all that.
Wow, it's so beautiful. Anything else in there for now?
Well, I guess too, just knowing, because I'd asked you if things had changed, if things changed that had presented themselves in my eyes, if my eyes would change, and you told me that it's not about that as much. It's about looking at why those are appearing and embodying it in a positive way, instead of it, you know, that's like you said, it's that lesson, but once you learn that lesson, it can change into something really positive and powerful. So I thought that was cool too. Like, my dark spot for my self-esteem on my feminine side is so prominent, but it can be prominent in a positive way too.
Absolutely.
So it's just like,
by the way, that's creative expression with your hands, which you did all weekend. So it's funny how that works. And it is such a common question, because when I read eyes, I usually talk about the shadow side or the negative side or the painful side of any pattern. And people go, yeah. I tried it for a while just talking about the gifts of what it was. And they were like, huh? Who are you talking to? And so what I realized I needed to do was to gain rapport by aligning with the pain. And then when you align with the pain, then the beautiful journey is how do I transcend it? How do I move through it? How do I grow from it? How do I learn from it to manifest the gifts? And then when I look in your eyes, and it's so funny because it's always a decision on my part of how do I read the pattern? Do I go to the negative? Do I go to the positive? Do I go to the learning in between? And that's the art of the science, is knowing where to approach each of the patterns and how they interrelate. So that's the dance that I do. But it's beautiful that you get to see that nothing's wrong with you, and that it's simply an evolution and a journey that you're taking, and you're going to be learning these things the rest of your life, and you get to celebrate that. And when the big ugly dragon rears its head, you know why. And then you know what you can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part. That's the empowerment for me. So that, and I love what you said, because the first time I had my eyes read 27 years ago, what I experienced was the person put into words what I was feeling but could never explain, which is kind of what I heard you say.
Yeah.
It's like a validation in words that are validating your experiences.
Yeah, which I think
You're
is
not-
really important.
Yeah, you're not crazy. This isn't weird. There's nothing wrong. It's like, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And now you have a container for it. So beautiful. So in the follow-up, where I'd like to go is I had a profound realization about what I do is I look at the condition. So I look at ADD or ADHD. Okay, so it's some kind of a attention deficit disorder. So when so when you don't take your medication, what's your personality like?
I would say I pay attention to everything all at once and really talkative. I can't stick to one topic for too long. I never finish anything, even if it's something I'm interested in, because it's exciting. Like, starting it is done. I don't care. And then also just, I lost my train of thought. That's ironic.
So there it is.
Yeah.
So good. That's what I wanted to hear. So what I do is I take the essence of that, which is I can't stick with anything too long. I can't focus. I get really scattered. I lose my train of thought. All of that. Okay. So if we just take that and set it over here for right now, because that's what's happening in current generation today. Now let's go back a couple of generations and look at what was happening to the women on both sides of your family. They were with men that were alcoholics, and most of the time there's violence. And if there's not, there's verbal abuse, if there's not physical abuse. Okay, and so how do they deal with it? The way they dealt with it is they couldn't stick around. They went out and they left, and they went and they found their peace and their solace. They found their love, their connection through affairs with other men. So they were getting their hearts nurtured that allowed them enough strength to come back into the relationship to be beat up a little longer for most of their lives. So they can't focus on anything. They can't be where they are. They always have to go somewhere else. Now, you haven't chosen drugs. You've chosen monogamy. You haven't chosen promiscuity. And so the pattern, when it's up here, that's being acted out in the family, that I can't stay in any one place too long or I'm going to get hurt. Okay? Now we fast forward that a couple of generations. Now each generation, it picks up a little more steam, a little more emphasis, a little more juice when it's unresolved. So it comes down to you where you can't stay in any one thought or any one experience or any one project too long. And it's the exact same energy. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And so what would happen if you stayed on one thing too long?
Yeah, that's the thing though. I mean, I've achieved that. and it feels good. It's just
Yes.
finishing something. Yeah.
Finishing something. But what happens during that process? And let's say that you were able to do this without any medication, that you had now come to the place. Why is it that without medication your body's going wing, 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 gotta go here, gotta go there, gotta go here? Why does that happen from what you've learned? What would you surmise from that?
I guess it would just be the feeling that I don't know, I guess not being able to stick with anything, but
You said it right. It would be the feeling. Okay, all of the feelings that were going on in all of the women in the past generations that they can't deal with, they can't express, and right here in your eye, we had talked about this very profound place in the voice that's very marked. You may not be able to see it on the camera, but or even in the photography for your eyes, it really shows up. It's the area called sacred truth, and it's the ability to speak about what's going on for you. And so when women run and they're in abusive situations and they're not supported and there are no support groups and nothing like that, then they run and they have to stuff it. And so those are feelings that get stuffed. Okay? So that's why they can't be in one place too long, because they would get overwhelmed with feeling. Well, guess what happens to all of those repressed feelings from the mother's side and the father's side, from the women that come rushing down into you when you get focused on something?
so it's just really concentrated.
It's really concentrated. All their feelings come up. All your feelings come up. And it becomes such an overwhelm of feeling that it would literally, from some part of your perception, take you out. It would deluge you. But it doesn't ever let it get to that far, because what happens is the mind kicks in, and the mind keeps you distracted by keeping you on always another step going. Got to do this, got to do that, got to go here, got to keep busy, got to go do. So it doesn't let you focus, because if you ever got still and you ever focused, the feelings would come like a tsunami. Can you recognize that? Does that make sense? So really what that tells us is it sets a framework, and it sets the course for this part of your life, which is what I was sharing in the consultation. Girl, we got to move energy. Girl, we got to move energy. Creativity. Your sleep's going to be really important, and when you're sleeping well, your creative energy's moving and your emotions aren't backed up. And so sound and tone and all the things we went over. So all of that makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
And it's really grounded in. So for me, it's a beautiful thing to see how a condition like ADD or ADHD is simply the result of the same behaviors in previous generations that have become more concentrated. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I just think it's phenomenal. The other thing that I wanted to point out that for me was just so powerful is your eyes, and I talked about it in the beginning. Your type is the emotional sensitive type. I mean, it's just, you're wired for that, and it's not going to change. And we don't want it to change.
Right.
It's your power, it's your creativity, it's your spontaneity, it's the sparkle in your eyes, it's that wonderful juice you have. And so the lesson with this type is that it is the neurogenic fibers are so sensitive they don't want to hurt anybody, and the emotional type with the lacuna in the eyes, what they do is they want to connect with other people, and they're looking for other people for acknowledgement or recognition or validation. So you have two big aspects of yourself that are others-centered. Okay? And can you relate to that?
Yeah.
Right. And so what we say, so all we want to do is look at it and say, okay, the lesson is this, is that I have to find myself within myself. And recognizing that I'm looking outside, and I can assure you that the harder you look and the longer you look, the more you're going to be let down by all the idiots out there that don't understand you, your sensitivity, and all your needs. That's because that's your responsibility. And so the lesson when you have all these fibers in place, and what kept coming to me in several hot tub sessions, was initiate. And what does that mean? It means that your emotional type self and your heart has a wisdom and a knowledge to it. It's in your body. It's your intuition. And so of all of the people I see, you're one of the few that I would say, Lindsay, it's time to learn to be selfish.
Yeah.
Because you are so compassionate, you are so helping and kind and mothering and want to take care of people and have all those wonderful qualities. But for a while, it's going to be incredibly powerful to you to focus on you, which might seem selfish or narcissistic or, I shouldn't be doing that. But it's actually going to be a great exercise for you to undertake because there's a process of understanding what you're feeling and what you're needing that then you get to initiate how you want to be treated. Because the knee-jerk response to this, and anybody with this iris pattern in the world, would simply usually deflect to others and then be angry, disappointed, sad, and lonely because nobody met their expectations. And then they would blame them. That's the knee-jerk unconscious response to this pattern. You get to change all that. And you get to change all that by saying, so the selfish is really about going inside your own body, your own emotions, your own feelings, finding what you need. And the initiation is the willingness to then create what you want for you. That will break you free of this pattern. That's what no woman in your family history has ever been able to know what she feels, what she needs, and have any words to describe it.
Yeah.
They didn't even know what they were feeling except, I got to get the hell out of here, right? Or I need to escape. So what a powerful opportunity that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I actually almost feel like I've already kind of been on that journey. Because I even last year was telling people that this is the time to be selfish and putting yourself first.
I love it.
It's like not a bad thing because at the end of the, like when you're in your deathbed, you are accountable for your decisions with your life. And if you let other people control that, then that's, that's up to you to own up to, I guess. So. Well,
that's the hallmark of the new breed that you are, that knows that at 22 and before. So my hat's off to you. I'm in humility and respect for that kind of a knowledge and wisdom that you even know that, because I'm telling you, I've done this a long time. I've seen this pattern so many times I can't tell you, and I can assure you 99.9% of them are victims that have been torched. And when they're women, they get such a bitter attitude towards men and their fathers, and yada yada, and it just goes on and on and on and on, and it takes a lot of unwinding to take that responsibility for oneself. And you're there. I mean, you were born with it, and it's a beautiful thing. And it being able to serve at this level and to help you see, and then to recognize, wow, okay, I can take these steps. I actually see that with a great diet and some real support to go in, and I truly believe that going into these deep places of emotions, you can't do it all alone. We need somebody to support us, but you'll flow through them and move through them amazingly, and you'll get the benefits of all of it that will allow you to, you could easily, in my opinion, live your life without any medications. And I would never tell you to stop taking them. It's not my place, and it's only my opinion that this condition is merely a consequence of energies that have been out in your family for a number of generations. There's a deep soul learning here, and it may be years before you could ever get off them. You may never get off them. It might be better that you stay on them. But the point is that you're going to be able to create healthy relationships, and that's what hasn't been done.
Yeah.
So I could care less what you're putting in your mouth. If your heart's happy and you're in love and you're sharing wonderful times with somebody and have good relationships around you, what else could you ask for?
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of speaking to me at least right now, and the voice in my head is just, I don't know. I used to wonder why I'd gone through everything I went through growing up, because I've been through easily a lot. I mean, bullying and depression and attempted suicide and anxiety and everything. I mean, watching someone die. I mean, you name it, I've been there, done a lot of things so far as even 20 years old that a lot of people might never do in their lives. And I used to always wonder, like, why did this have to happen to me? Why did I have to have this family? And of course, it does go back to that whole, you picked it before you came here because this is what you're meant to learn. But I think the biggest thing I want to share from my experience is that I feel like I went through it because I needed to go through it to help other people go through it more quickly. And I guess my biggest message that I'd like to share, at least, is just that people need to be more open with how they feel. And I know that's, I know that's like, duh, because I'm super sensitive. But really, the biggest thing I've noticed is that people feel so afraid to actually be honest with how they feel. And I feel like that's one of the biggest problems, is the masks that we wear every day. Mm-hmm. And what actually happens when you're willing to say, I'm upset for this reason, and actually sitting down having a conversation. Because I think it's everyone walking around with these wounds, and you accidentally poke a wound and then they snap at you and you never know what you did wrong, instead of them just sitting down and saying, hey, this really sucked. So that's one thing I think is, like, people just need to really be honest with themselves and confront it. Because I've been through therapy and I've been through a lot of things, and just really being honest with, how many people honestly say they tried to kill themselves? Not many people are going to tell you that, but I'm open about it. And I've had people come to me for that reason and tell me, like, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I need to see a psychiatrist. Will you come with me? Will you help me? Mm-hmm. And just because I'm open. So I think that's like my biggest message, is just by being honest, you never know what could happen.
That's beautiful. What can you say? That's as an old guy out there doing this, that's my message. What you can feel, you can heal. Mm-hmm. And in the feelings, there's lots of wisdom. And I've spent 30 years in my own and work with a system of just feeling and merging, not trying to change anything. Yeah. And you've been walking that path, and wow. It's like you signed up for it and you chose to do it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of it there. And I think it's a beautiful thing that when you have this kind of an attitude, it doesn't have to hold you back. And the willingness to go there is the willingness to experience, the infinite love of God. Mm-hmm. It's really, it's a never-ending, unfolding drama that turns to joy. Because it's not, I know for me, because I have a similar eye pattern to you, so it's very easy to relate to you. I am the emotional type, and I've died 6 times. And so I know what it's like to go to those places, and you know what it's like to go to those places, and it's beautiful to be able to sit and share this experiences. And I hope that in some way this can serve people out there, to help them realize that there's no condition or anything that's greater than the power of their own love and willingness to feel and move through it.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's just 2 more things. So I always like to say, it's okay to be sad, just don't let yourself get stuck. So that's one thing I think is, like, let yourself feel it, but don't get caught up. And then the other thing that's just kind of one of my favorite things my cousin told me, she said, when you're happy, or no, when you're sad, people always tell you when you're sad, like, oh, don't worry, it'll be over eventually. You don't worry, you'll get over it soon. It's not going to last forever. But people don't focus as much on saying, when you're happy, just, like, enjoy it. This doesn't last forever. Yeah, and it was just something that was like, wow, make people more cognizant. Enjoy this. It doesn't last forever. It's not saying it in a mean way. It's just like, literally just enjoy the fact that you're having a great day.
The moment's the moment. Mm-hmm. The day's the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then there's going to be another one.
Yeah, and it just, it was just something that really resonated with me.
Yeah, there's something about living in the present moment, isn't there? I love it.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see what the next turn of events is.